This podcast was recorded on Gubby Gubby land and pays respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, whether you're a new listener or you have been hanging around here for a little while. I am going to be getting into the topic of why do I eat so much in the week leading up to my period? Why is my luteal phase full of me just wanting to eat so much food? And this can potentially lead to feeling shame. This can lead to feeling like what's wrong with me and all of the other things that come under this, because, you know, if you don't understand the hormonal fluctuations of your cycle and you don't understand actually why your body is potentially having metabolic changes, then of course it's going to feel confusing and you're going to feel like there's something wrong. And this is actually something that I get asked a lot, is why do I eat so much in the week leading up to my period? Or is there something wrong with me because I'm craving so much more food and I'm able to eat such bigger meals? And I just want to answer all of your questions around this, well, most of them, and give you a little bit of, I guess, research or like reasoning behind why you feel this way in your luteal phase. So let's get into it. I will say, oh my gosh, since I'm halfway through my pregnancy now, speaking about just like different things of the cycle and just like our cycle in general, I'm like, I just can't wait to have my cycle back. It's been, obviously, I love being pregnant. I'm not like wishing for that to go away sooner either, but it's like, I didn't realize how much I actually just loved the rhythm of my menstrual cycle and how much I was like so deeply just embodied in each phase until it's been taken away from me. And it's been super interesting to just navigate how at the moment I'm kind of just like going through like each menstrual phase, I guess, but like at a longer period. It's almost like the first trimester felt just like a 3-month long luteal phase. And I guess now I'm in the second trimester. It's actually feeling more like an ovulation energy, follicular phase energy, like that more like higher beat, like I've got my energy, I'm feeling really good. And then I'm kind of guessing that the third trimester and postpartum, so the fourth trimester, are probably going to feel more like that bleed energy. So, you know, interesting how I've just been taking note of that in my own body, that like the cycle is still there, but it's just a bit different. And yeah, anyway, we're not going to get into that. I want to jump straight into this topic. So a lot of women, including myself as well, tend to want to eat more during the pre-period week, during your luteal phase. And this is because of like multiple different things, right? And mostly coming to our hormones. So our hormones, this is like such a huge topic, but our hormones affect our metabolism so much, right? So you probably find in your luteal phase that you have like higher fluid retention, so you're holding onto water weight a little bit more, which can kind of like make you feel a little bit puffy or like bloated, right? You might find that you get a little bit of breast tenderness, or what we're going to be speaking about like hugely in this episode is like the appetite thing, but also slower digestion, right? So this can also just change so much, and you can just kind of feel a little bit gross, especially if your digestion is already slow, and then in this phase the progesterone is actually slowing it down even more. So I just wanted to like say that yes, your hormones, they change in this phase. Progesterone is increasing, so we are going to be seeing progesterone levels rising, and they rise right until the end in preparation for pregnancy. And then of course when our bleed comes, doesn't happen, that drops and our bleed comes, right? So progesterone has been linked to increased appetite and food intake, but this is because our body in this phase, like I always say, it's the inner autumn, is in preparation for the inner winter. So yes, on a physiological level, we are preparing for pregnancy, but also our bleed time is the inner winter time, right? And if you think about winter, think about like hunters and gatherers, right? They would go out and they would collect all this food and gather it for the winter time. And that's really what our body is doing, because you probably find as well on your period that you maybe don't eat as much, right? And you may also find that if you ignore these like appetite changes in your luteal phase, that your period phase comes with a lot of cravings and a lot of really needing to like down that whole block of chocolate and binge eat. So this is why it's important to understand that like your hormones actually genuinely have a huge impact on your appetite, especially in this pre-period week. So I just wanted to touch on that. Another thing is in our luteal phase, while progesterone is rising and rising and rising, it's climbing up that mountain, it's getting to the top, our estrogen is actually decreasing. So I'm just going to talk to estrogen as a whole here, but estrogen is a hormone that does decrease our appetite. So it like almost can like suppress our appetite. So you might even find like in your ovulation phase or follicular phase, as that estrogen is rising, that you're not like actually needing to like fuel your body as much, or you know, you might not get those like binge eating stints or like those super crazy cravings of food. And this is because your estrogen is, you know, on its rise, it's like doing its thing, and it does actually affect your appetite as well. So even just looking at that, it's like, why do you shame yourself that you require more food and energy intake in the luteal phase, but you don't shame yourself that you need less in other phases? So I just also want to bring that. It's very hugely a mindset thing, but it also is a hormone thing, obviously. But yeah, estrogen suppresses your appetite, and it is dropping in your luteal phase. So it just makes sense, right? That like that then is going to activate you really wanting to eat them things. There is a study that has been done on our metabolism as well, and it's research from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, and I will leave that linked below. But this study basically is just going into how our basal metabolic, why can't I say that word fast? I need to slow down. Our basal metabolic rate increases during the luteal phase, right? So this is like leading to greater hunger and more food intake to compensate for the extra energy that is being used by the body. Because I want you to remember, during our luteal phase, there is a lot going on. Our endometrial lining is thickening, which is a huge thing to do every month without you even thinking about it. And the endometrial glands secrete nutrients and other substances to nourish the potentiality of falling pregnant, like I said previously. So that's a lot going on, right? There is so much happening. So of course, if your body is working this hard behind the scenes and you're not even having to think about it, this is all just happening, then of course you're going to have to eat more, right? Like, you think about it like that. It's like my body is doing God's work right now. It is just doing her thing. Plus on top of this, you have your routine, you have your work, you have all the things that are conscious to you. Of course you need to eat more food, especially if you, well, not even especially, but like if you are super busy and you're like working out every day, you've got kids you're running after, like all these things, of course you need to be nourishing your body. And it's nourishment, right? It's not like you need to nourish your body. You need to give your body the energy that it deserves and that it actually needs. So it's really changing that mindset once again around what it actually means to have to eat more. I want to also touch on the role of serotonin and how that comes into our appetite and what serotonin actually is. I'm sure like most people know what serotonin is, but let's just quickly cover it. So it's obviously it's like a feel-good neurotransmitter. So it is something that helps us to stabilize our mood. Like we feel really good when we have high levels of serotonin and like feel really happy. It is involved with our sleep-wake cycle. Again, it comes into like appetite, digestion, all the things, but it is like mostly known as that like happy neurotransmitter where everyone's like, yeah, if you're like low in serotonin, like you're sad, like things like that. Okay. So that is serotonin. But in the luteal phase, and like I just mentioned, serotonin can actually impact your digestion, but in the luteal phase, your serotonin levels they're low. They have dropped because of, on a basic, I'm not going to go super deep into this, but basically estrogen plays a huge role in serotonin production because it influences the synthesis of it. So if we have low estrogen, of course, we're going to have low serotonin because it's limited availability when there's limited estrogen running through your system and doing the thing. So if your estrogen levels are low, your serotonin levels are lower, which is also why this can lead to a time when some women really do face like feeling anxious, depressed, all the things, which that is not normal. I'm absolutely not normalizing like feeling like shit in your luteal phase. There are so many ways and tools that you can support yourself so that you don't feel that way, but it is just like an extra layer to the onion of the menstrual cycle. But yeah, basically like because serotonin is lower, you're going to have increased cravings in this time, especially for like carbs and probably sugar, right? And this is quite literally your body just craving what it needs on like a level, but like we do want to try and limit that sugar intake because sugar can not have like the greatest impact on our body during, especially during our luteal phase. But complex carbs are really good in this phase. So like we're looking at like whole grains, starchy veggies, legumes. So like, lentils, chickpeas, beans, like really rich in fiber. These are good carbs that we want to be looking at. But we kind of want to like try to have those like better carbs rather than going to like the Hungry Jack's drive-through. Okay, so I feel like I've just got lost on a little bit of a tangent there, but basically just to wheel that one back in, serotonin is low, which leads to craving more sugar, craving more carbs. This, again, your body is quite literally in the mood to eat. But I want to sort of talk about, instead of going into like any more other things, I just want to talk about like what nutrients your body actually like needs in this time while it's going through all these physiological changes, while all of these things are going on, because remember, your body is working very hard behind the scenes. So as I just mentioned, like complex carbs are really good. We also want to look at eating like magnesium rich foods. I always am like the biggest, just like, girl, get a cacao. Ceremonial cacao is like the bee's knees, especially in your luteal phase, because magnesium is super important and we want to satisfy those chocolate cravings, and magnesium is going to, satisfy that, and it's going to lift your mood, and it's just going to really support you and your hormones. Nuts and seeds are really good. If you go back and listen to my previous episode with Melissa from the seed cycle, she really goes into the seeds and like how they are so great with our cycle and like what seeds to have in what phase. So I would highly recommend you going and listening to that episode to get more of like a deeper understanding around that. Healthy fats are really good. So healthy fats, thinking avocado, fish, so like salmon and like chia seeds and like, different omega-3s. Like we just want to like get that up, because omega-3 has been proven to actually reduce inflammation. So that is a really good thing. We want to reduce inflammation. Although inflammation is a part of the healing process, we can have like a lot more inflammation going on in this phase. So especially if you're a girly who like sort of faces a lot of, sorry, I really hope you can't hear my washing machine. It's on its spin cycle. It's so loud. Anyway, if you're a girly who gets like bloating and like a lot of inflammation in this phase, definitely have a look at implementing some sort of omega-3s into your diet. And then I'm just going to touch on one other form of food because I don't want to go into like all of them, but hydration, so like hydrating foods. We want to like look at bringing in like teas, like warm nourishing teas, nourishing your body while your body temperature is dropping. So this can look like, if you are someone who gets bloating, like potentially like peppermint, and that can help with like, if you have a slower digestion as well, peppermint's really good. But yeah, just nourishing your body in that way and just eating more sort of hydrating foods in this time, because hydration is super important, especially with all the amazing things that your body's doing behind the scenes without you even having to think about it. So yeah, I feel like I'm just going to like quickly go over like my key points in this episode, and then we're going to wrap it up. So this episode was all about like, why do you tend to eat more in your luteal phase? We've got the hormone changes, so like our progesterone increasing, our estrogen decreasing, which is also leading to our serotonin decreasing. We have a change in our metabolic life, in our metabolic rate. I couldn't think of the word, sorry. And I will leave that study linked below that I was referring to for that. And yeah, we just have like our cravings, which are, linked to the changes in our serotonin levels, in our hormones. And yeah, remembering that this is our inner autumn, our body is quite literally preparing for the winter. So it is a time when you should be eating more, especially more of the beautiful nutrient loving foods that your body needs at this time. So yeah, thank you for listening to this episode. I actually really love this. I feel like I've kind of like, since my pregnancy, taken my podcast a little bit of a different turn, and I've just been really diving deep in like research and studies. So I just finished a subject from hell in uni, but it actually taught me a lot more than I like realized. I'm just trying to be grateful for it, because at the time it's called Foundations of Critical Inquiry, and it's like a really heavy research subject. Like it's really only research. We just have like these huge assignments where we just have to research correctly and properly and, you know, pick a topic, all the things. Of course, I picked something cycle related, but since then, like when I had each, when I had each assignment, I had like, I think I had a research question assignment, a qualitative study one, and then a quantitative study one. And each one, I was like, actually, I hate this. I want to quit my degree. I hate this. And then now that I've like come out the other side of that subject, and I actually got really high marks in there, I got high distinction for like overall for the subject. I'm like, slay queen. But it actually taught me more than I kind of thought that it would, because at the time I was like, these are huge assignments. I actually want to die. But since then, yeah, I've just been like, I've learned how to study. I mean, I've learned how to research properly, and I'm just like loving it. I'm like, what can I research today that I just like, you know, there's something that lights me up. So I hope you have enjoyed like this episode. I'm pretty sure the last episode was like a little bit researchy as well, but that's okay, because we love an evidence-based queen. It is an absolute slay. Anyway, I'm going to jump off now and upload this episode for you. Like I have kind of said in other episodes, I'm just taking a break from like the routine and the structure of my podcast, and I'm honestly just scheduling them for just random days, because I'm just like, I'm feeling kind of random. We don't have to go on the Friday every single day. So I think it just keeps it fun as well. And I think you guys have been loving it. I've been getting like a bunch more listens, which is like great. I'm not complaining at all. So yeah. And don't forget, if you don't follow me over on Instagram, go find me at Sacred Space W Tanika Lace. That is my Instagram handle, and I post over there all the time. I've also started up my YouTube, but if you head over to my Instagram, which I'll have linked below, I do have like my link in bio, and that kind of can take you everywhere that you want to go as well. So that is pretty much all. That concludes this episode. I love you so much, and thank you for listening. And also jump in my DMs in Instagram. Let me know how this landed for you. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode, what you got from this episode, because it was actually really fun to record. Bye.